I'm Jessica Nova, and welcome to Geek Girls Reviews. So, today we're going to be talking about Assassin's Creed Valhalla, and I kind of fell off this game. You know, I haven't had it as long as a lot of people, and I got easily distracted. So if that's going to tell you anything about kind of where my expectations for the game were versus kind of where I got, and granted, I don't feel like I've given it quite as much time as I'm going to, so I'm not tapped out on it. This is not my final review. This is my current review. But before we jump into what can at times maybe be a little negative, I did want to talk about the River Rapids free downloadable content. I haven't gotten to play it yet. While I was assessing my thoughts on the game, I went back and I watched a little demo trailer for it, and I'm really excited about this. In a lot of ways, this might kind of turn the game for me. I think I'm just not quite as deep in the story as I really want to be, but raids and the River Raid, the River Rapids expansion, where you kind of have this idea of going place to place, and it's affecting where you go further down the river, and kind of needing to do this almost Oregon Trail style, where it's like you got to get through the whole way, or you kind of start all over. At least that was how I understood gameplay, and I could be wrong. I'm not the most savvy gamer, but that concept was really exciting in this way that it's, okay, I have to pay attention how I attack, who I'm taking with me, how they grow. I love the idea of being able to take care of the Vikings you have, making sure their rations are okay, and that there's that little like caretaker Sims element that I enjoy about The Sims, where you have to put that time and effort into part of your team, and that, I think I'm going to really enjoy that, and I think that's going to add a boost to the game that I didn't feel was quite as engaging as I wanted. And I'm not quite sure why yet. I haven't been able to figure out why the game hasn't captured me like I thought it would. But what I do like is I love the way everything looks. I like the way a lot of the mythos and the mythology is treated from a standpoint as somebody that really enjoys Norse, Viking, has ancestry, and then also enjoys the mythology of it, and is versed, I think, decently well in a lot of it. It just didn't quite pull me all the way in, and there's really no other way for me to say that except that I just felt like I wanted just a little more. Every little bit, every visual was great, and then it was just, part of me thinks it's me. Part of me thinks it must be me, because I'm not able to find the thing that wasn't right. Or I mean, there are designs that aren't necessarily the way I would have designed something, but that wasn't taking me out of it. I think for me, this type of gameplay, this is the first Assassin's Creed game I've ever played. So it's already not a franchise and a style of gaming that I'm necessarily, I have no nostalgia for it. I'm not well versed in it, and this is a fairly new type of concept for me as far as a game to play. That's not the kind of game I play. I like to play Sailor Moon, old school Super Nintendo games, and The Sims. So, working all that out, but having enjoyed watching games like this, I thought surely this is an easy win. And even though I feel like the way the characters are handled, I liked the story. I like kind of the options where the side quests felt as if you really had the option of doing them. The story mode wasn't just shoved fully in over and over repeatedly in your face. Obviously, there is kind of that similar narrative to my understanding of how Assassin's Creed games work, and how you're accustomed to moving through that story. This has been reviewed, and would be my take as well, is that I didn't feel that ham-fisted all the way in there. I felt that I had this option to slowly kind of be introduced to the way that the story was going to go, and it felt very unique in that I like the options I have for my characters. I liked I'm still thinking about that river rapid, getting to customize my long boats and stuff. It's pretty exciting. Just new things. You know, I felt like the game, there was a friend of mine had mentioned kind of a little bug, and there were a couple little goofy things that we would encounter to be like, oh, this seems slightly counterintuitive and a little frustrating, and there would just be minor moments of that. Overall, the game ran very well, played beautifully. The cutscenes are really very striking. But the dark element, in some ways, I felt like it wasn't that things didn't feel grounded, because, you know, I'm not necessarily looking for true grounding. There was just a step not as far into what I was truly excited about, what I truly kind of felt like I'd be going on as a game player. I didn't quite ever get there. And then, kind of spoiling it for myself, I've already gone and had listened to some of the ending stuff, so we're going to talk about some of that and how I feel about that. So we're going to try and do this with no spoilers. So we're going to just try and, I don't know, if you haven't played at all and you haven't watched anything about the ending, it might be a good idea to stop the video right now, because we are going to probably say something you don't want to know. It's stuff I didn't know, and it's stuff that, because I haven't played any of the other games, didn't really know what to look out for. So some of the depth of storytelling that is present in this game isn't exactly accessible in some ways to brand new players. I realize they don't anticipate that this will be the game that somebody gets into, but for me, because I love Norse mythology, I love mythology in general, but especially like Viking, Norse, with a little bit of this, you know, European mysticism mixed in there in a different way. This was totally the game that got me interested in Assassin's Creed, because otherwise it just wasn't, they weren't areas that I necessarily wanted to go to. It's not my kind of game, so it was going to take something I was truly excited about to pull me in. So it did that. It did pull me in, super effective there. But then not having the background knowledge of the world building to see where these characters are kind of coming from, who they formerly were, where these appearances had been, and to be able to come to those conclusions on my own, having to be led there through a video, through kind of some follow-up, to then more fully realize the connection, isn't exactly the way that I want to play. It's not as much fun to me. It's a little like, oh, I feel like I'm missing out, not I'm being included. And again, realizing the game is not necessarily built for people to come in at this point, I don't fault the game creators for that. I do think now, having more knowledge, the way that they do build this in is awesome. So I kind of tweak my review a little bit, having a little bit more knowledge. I think I'm going to kind of research the older games a little bit more, and maybe even start over, because there's so much I feel I have missed that would have made that next step more apparent for me as a first-time player. So I think the game does have exactly what it was I was hoping for. I just wasn't able to be privy to it because I didn't come with the prerequisite, for example. I don't think that's necessarily the only way you can play this game. I was able to enjoy it up to where I was without having this information, but I could have had more. I could have had exactly what I wanted from the beginning. And now that I know that, I would suggest that if somebody was playing this and hadn't played any Assassin's Creed previously, that you take the time to do a little bit of research on the mythology of those games so that you know a little bit more what you're looking out for. You can enjoy the Easter eggs and kind of the nods to previous games a little more thoroughly, and it will make you feel a little bit more immersed in this world building. Instead of kind of, in some ways I felt like a sightseer. I felt like I just wasn't totally able to fall into the world, but that mythology does exist. So if you have been an Assassin's Creed player in previous games, you know the lore, I would say dive right in, and you're going to enjoy the tar out of this game, because I think the way that they use this lens of Norse mythology, the way that they can reimagine and tie the story together with the mythology they've created in the world building of their games, is very artistic, is very interesting and engaging and exciting. And I think you'll love it. Yeah, I would say this is definitely a game worth playing. Make sure you kind of take an unawareness inventory of what some of the common bugs are. So, you know, if you bump into them, you're not totally set off. Me knowing what to look for from my friends that had already played it made it so that when those popped up, I didn't stress. I was like, oh, okay, this is the annoying thing. You know, I feel that used to be more common in games where it was kind of, you had to have a little hack because there was always some kind of goofy thing that would occasionally disrupt gameplay, or, you know, even being little and having to blow in your cartridges to get them to work. You know, we're kind of used to a slight inconvenience, or at least I am, you know, maybe because I haven't gotten spoiled at games, and a lot of my gameplay is older, is where you kind of made those, what's the word? You can stop right here, Chris. Where you made those concessions as a player, that just this little goofy thing, you had to kind of energy exchange it to get to do what you wanted to and to get that much further in the game. So, yeah, gameplay is beautiful. It plays in 4K really well. If you have a system that will play that, that's the way I recommend it. It's gorgeous, and I just think you'll enjoy it, absolutely. Let me know what you think. Make sure you follow me, the Jessica Nova, on Instagram. You can see where I'm doing all my burlesque shows. You can see a lot of my modeling. You can see a whole lot of other stuff. Go to mygeekglory.com and check me out every Monday on twitch.tv/mygeekglory. I play video games old school in cosplay, and we have a lot of fun being ridiculous. I'll see you soon. Make sure you like and subscribe, and I'll see you later.